Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel many times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, many different styles, and I think it's fair to say that this brewery are known for being a little bit of an experimenter. You know, they're known for being very solid all round. Lots of different styles and they're always very nicely done. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is one of their latest releases through Systembolaget. It's meant to be quite a nice one, and it is a style that I know they can do very, very well actually. So needless to say, I'm quite curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. So hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. Got to get the Gothenburg catchphrase in for the Gothenburg beers because it is just channel tradition these days. But for this review, we are going to return to the wonderful Beerbliotek. So this particular beer is called The Past and the Present and the Future. It comes in at 7% ABV. It's a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA, and this is recipe number 333 from Beerbliotek. So yeah, like I say, these guys develop a lot of different recipes, always pump out new beers. That is their thing. But yeah, this one was released as part of the Local Småskalig assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden for November of 2022, and it is supposed to be pretty nice. This is also the first half-litre can we've seen from Beerbliotek. They used to sell their, or for the most part, I'm not sure if they have changed it completely, but yeah, quite often they sell their beers in the little 330ml cans. But it's a little bit more beer, and as I say, it's a style I know these guys can do pretty damn well actually. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what we have. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Beerbliotek in the past, and we will no doubt return to these guys at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is hugely, hugely appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer based on the geography-based tagging system. Go into the homepage, as I say, use the search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, whatever, and if I've reviewed beers from your local area, they will pop up, and you can of course check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Swedish playlist along with many other things, and that is constantly being added to. But yeah, let's get on then and chat a little bit about Beerbliotek then. On to my brewery notes. So, Beerbliotek, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Gothenburg, Göteborg, up on the Swedish west coast, and the company was founded back in 2013 by a multinational group of friends. So this is Adam Norman, who's from Australia, Richard Bull, who's from New Zealand, Kiwi, Anders Hedlund, who is Swedish, and then Darl Daneker, who's from South Africa. So Adam and Richard ran Bar Doppio in Gothenburg, and they'd been homebrewing together from about 2011, but Darren and Anders were regular customers at the bar. They often used to talk about beer together, and then Darryl started to join in with the home brewing, and then in 2012 Anders joined them and they decided to take their project commercial. So the original brewery that they had was in the old Klippan Sugar building, which was a really nice old building very close to the old Carnegie Brewery in Gothenburg, and the original brew kit that the guys bought was from Brewfab in Scotland. It was one of the old Brewdog brew kits, if I remember correctly, and in the first year of operation they produced 38 different varieties of beer. But the thing with Beerbliotek is that all of their beers are brewed in small batches at first, so it means that they stick to their home brewing and experimentation roots, and they very rarely brew the same beer, if you like. So there's no fixed range from Beerbliotek, and they're always creating brand new recipes, but there are a number of beers that will appear fairly regularly these days because some of them proved to be very, very popular. Some of the black IPAs have been reproduced, the Instant of Clarity, which was the GBG Beer Week beer for 2017, and also the Passion for Gingers. These are ones that seem to appear every so often. Of course, they've got the Eternal Dankness and the Eternal Darkness as well, which they play with every year. So there are things that are coming out quite regularly from Beerbliotek, but they still stick to their experimental roots, which is very, very nice. But a little bit later on in 2015, they opened a second brewery in Kungston, which is where they now have their tap room and run their main brewing operations from. They brewed sour beers for a period in the old brewery, and they began working on the barrel aging project when they shifted into the new place in Kungston. But over the years, they've just continued to develop different recipes, and they've expanded the company. In 2018, Fabian and Victor Hjelte joined the company as investors, and then a little bit later on this year, in 2022, they were joined by Palle Stenberg, who runs the Nudie Jeans brand. So yeah, they've expanded the company a little bit to basically gain know-how and also to gain kind of finance and things for certain things that they want to do. But the current brewmaster at Beerbliotek is the Italian Riccardo Boff, who studied brewing and distilling at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh. He also worked for Pilot in Scotland, Kramer Lee in Korea, who are a very good brewery actually, and then he came to Gothenburg here in Sweden. But he joined Beerbliotek in late 2020, and then in early 2021, Beerbliotek purchased a 750-litre distillery and started a spirits company, which is known as Wet City Spirits, and they released their first gin in the August of that year through Systembolaget. But the idea behind the name Beerbliotek is that they want to brew a wide variety of beers, which of course they do, and this is so that the customers can always learn something new about like a different hop or a new type of malt or a different beer style, you know, things like this. The whole idea behind Beerbliotek is that it's like a beer library. That's what the name means. But yeah, as of November 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, according to Untappd, these guys have produced 325 different kinds of beer. And like I said to you, these guys do a lot of different things. We've had some really nice beers of you know, a variety of different styles from them over the years. Barley wines, imperial stouts, black IPAs, West Coasters, New Englands. We had, I think the most recent review we did from them was actually a lager, and that was, I have to say, that was pretty nice actually. But yeah, that is all I can really tell you about Beerbliotek for the moment. They are a brewery that you should check out if you're interested in Swedish craft beer, but this is the first beer I've seen from them through Systembolaget in quite a wee while, if memory serves me correctly. But yeah, if you want to learn more, check out the brewery website, follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Beer Advocate and Untappd pages to learn more about the different beers, or you can check out some of my reviews. I mean, I think we go back to about 2015, 2016 when we started reviewing Beerbliotek beer. So yeah, let's crack on and just have a little look at this one then. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is kind of similar to what we've seen from Beerbliotek before, but they have kind of switched it up a little bit. There you can see on the side Beerbliotek, the past and the present and the future. 7% New England IPA, number 333. But yeah, as we see, a 500ml can. I don't know if this is what they're going to do for their lagers and IPAs and things going forward. We'll need to see. I've not had a big malty beast from these guys in quite a little while, so we'll need to see what they're releasing as part of their Christmas stuff actually. But yeah, it should be a really nice beer, this one. I don't think we need to say any more about it. We didn't get any notes on what hops or anything were in this beer, but I believe this cost me somewhere in the region of like 50 Swedish kroner. I think it was actually 55. So 55 Swedish kroner is about €5.50, £5 sterling, somewhere in the region of like $6, $6.50 American. But let's crack this guy open and see what we have. I'm really looking forward to this. My first IPA from Beerbliotek in quite a wee while. So there we are. This will be good. There we are. So let me just do that. So yeah, anyway, as you can see, this beer has poured pretty much as you would expect of a modern New England IPA, but I have to say the head on this one is absolutely beautiful. So yeah, it's got about a finger. I think we've got maybe about, yeah, I think we've got about 70% of the beer into the, maybe 60-70% of the beer in the glass. But it looks awesome. I mean, we've got a one finger frothy, I would say perfect white head there. Just look at the bubbles on that. It's awesome. It really does look very, very good. Lovely small bubbles there. It looks absolutely great. But yeah, perfect white head on this one. That is of course going to fade away to be a thin foamy layer as time goes on. But yeah, this one looks pretty much as you would expect from a New England IPA. So in terms of the colour, I would describe this one as being akin to a Mango juice. I always like comparing the New England IPAs to different sorts of fruit juices because this is just what they remind me of. But yeah, in terms of the colour of these beers, remember it's the type of malts that you use that goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging they do or any adjuncts you put in will affect the colour of the beer too. But when it comes to IPAs of any sort, you don't often have to you don't often have to care about the colour of these beers. So, or you don't often have to care about those variables when it comes to the colour of these beers. That's what I was looking for. But yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, it does look pretty nice. In terms of the level of haziness in this beer, it's not the soupiest and gloopiest of New England IPAs that I've come across for sure, but it's still got a decent level of haze. And remember, the level of haze in these beers is down to the oak content, the wheat content, and to a degree the yeast as well. So it can vary from brewery to brewery and beer to beer. But yeah, overall, it looks pretty. It does look pretty good, I have to say. It looks kind of as you would expect from a New England IPA. We've tried so many beers within this style bracket over the last while. It's we just want them to taste nice. That's the main thing. It's quite difficult to get blown away by the New England IPAs these days because there are so many of them. But appearance-wise, nothing untoward about this particular beer. So I think we should take a wee look at the aroma and see what we have from this one then. So let's do that. Oh yeah, that smells pretty nice. It's actually quite a mild aroma, this one. But it again, it has everything you'd expect. The first impression of this beer is that it's actually quite a barley malt leaning one, but it's also got a good little bit of oatiness and wheatiness to it. But I think for me, this is a more barley malt leaning New England IPA. It's got a soft green component. It has got that little bit of juiciness. But as I always say, for me, there are 6 things you should think about when it comes to this beer style. So you get the farmhousey, yeasty character, the sort of rye leaning, grainy side of things. Those are a bit more common and prominent in American brewed versions of the New England IPA, I would say. But then you've got a wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and also to a degree the sweetness as well. And so these are the 6 elements you should look at when it comes to New England IPAs, and quite often they will show various sorts of these things. So yeah, just be aware of that when you're thinking about these beers. So on the malty side of things with this beer then, this one for me, the backbone of this beer, you absolutely get a little bit of that fresh white bready bread crust, and it smells almost as if you've still got a bit of flour on the crust that's come, it's been freshly packed up in the bakery. It's something like that. There are 1 or 2 little woody elements within that, and you've also got a kind of layer of Jacob's cream cracker in this beer as well. So yeah, fresh white bready bread crust, layer of Jacob's cream cracker, and then yeah, just 1 or 2 little woody elements in there. Above that, I actually do get a little bit of a kind of wholemeal brown bready type character out of this one. I don't think this beer contains like rye or anything though. No, this one is actually just barley malt and oats. There's no wheat in this, so that might be why it appears just a little bit grainier, because of course the wheat usually has the effect of giving you a bit of smoothness and also a little bit of a kind of bitiness sometimes as well. So maybe that's the reason why this one appears a little bit more grainy and brown bready, but there is definitely a little bit of a brown bready character to this beer in the aroma. But then above that, of course, you're getting the white bread, and then you can smell the oats. And the oats are quite interesting in this one. As I've always said, when it comes to New England IPAs, the oats are usually a very good indicator of how old your beer is. The creamier that they smell, and taste, the fresher the beer is, but the drier they smell and taste, the more, how would you say, the older your beer is. Why could I not think of that phrase? Brain is just not working today, guys. But yeah, you can smell with this one. You've got the oatiness in there. You have got a little bit of creaminess to it, which I quite enjoy. You've also got that little bit of kind of dryness in there. And then you've got a wee bit of sweetness to this beer as well. You've got a good little bit of Werther's Original kind of butter candy to this one. It's not overpowering, but like I say, you've got the oaty layer, a bit of dryness from the oats, a bit of the smoothness in there as well. So I don't think this beer is at its absolute freshest, but I don't think it's in a bad state either. I think we should say that. But then, as I say, above that, you get a little bit of Werther's Original butter candy type thing. It could be a little bit of Golden Promise in this one. There is just something that's setting off my contextual memory. I think there is a wee bit of Golden Promise in this beer. But yeah, to be honest, I think that covers everything we need to say about the malty side of the beer. Yeah, I think that's it. The green component in this beer for me is quite mild. There's a very slight touch of earthiness to it, but not a lot. Not too much in the way of floral character. I think for me, the green component really leans toward a more grassy sort of thing. It's like a kind of soft, grassy character that's coming out of this beer. Yeah, soft, grassy, tiny little bit of floral character behind it. If you take the aroma in really deeply, you will get more and more of that kind of floral character. But yeah, the way it goes together is very, very nice in that sense. Yeah, I like how that goes together for sure. It does have a wee bit of a grassy, zesty kind of bite to it as well. On the fruity side of things, it's interesting. I mean, this beer, you get a little bit of that stronger passion fruit. Yeah, there's a little bit of a stronger passion fruit in there. You know, you've got a wee bit of mango and papaya and apricot and stuff, of course, as well. You know, the kind of drier fruits underneath. But yeah, passion fruit, a little bit of mango, wee bit of a kind of apricot-y character, as we said. And yeah, I like how that goes together for sure. Yeah, other than that, I think, you know, there's maybe a little very slight touch of a limey note to this one. Yeah, a little bit of a limey note, a little bit of a lemony character, but I don't find this one overly orangey or anything like that. That's the well, it had, you know, when I think about it, there is definitely a bit of lime in there. It says on the can there's tangerine, but I don't find it overly orangey. It has got a little bit of that, but for me it's more kind of soft and passion fruity, passion fruit, a little bit of pineapple and apricot and stuff, wee bit of a limey character. But yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is very, very nice. Yeah, it's a lovely aroma, this one. It's quite an easygoing New England IPA. So as I always say, take a wee bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck in. But I think it is about time that we taste this one and see what it's all about. So this one is called The Past and the Present and the Future. It's Beerbliotek's recipe number 333. And this should be pretty nice. A New England IPA at 7% ABV. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Yeah, I like how that goes together for sure. That is very, very nice. First impression of this one, it's a very smooth and clean, but still quite creamy New England IPA. We have had thicker ones than this. We have had thicker beers than this one from Beerbliotek in the past. But I do like how that goes together, absolutely. So, yeah, this is a very, very nicely done beer. I'm just going to say thumbs up to Beerbliotek for this one. It's taken a wee bit of time for me to kind of digest what's going on, but like I say, it's solid. And to be honest, with when I think of my experiences with Beerbliotek, I wouldn't expect anything less from these guys, to be quite honest with you. So, yeah, let's break this beer down and see what we have. Middle third of the palate, as we always do. We'll start with that. So yeah, middle third of the palate. Yeah, backbone of the beer. It's kind of interesting, this one. This is a lot smoother and a lot more creamy. The malty character in this beer actually diverges quite a little bit from it diverges quite a little bit from what you expect from the aroma. But yeah, middle third of the palate, you can feel you've got that nice little bit of fresh bread crust there forming the backbone of the beer. There is, if you go to the front of that middle third of your palate, you do have a little, very slight woody character to it. Then you have that nice, then you have a little bit of that nice, kind of Jacob's cream crackery sort of note to it. I think that's great, actually. So yeah, fresh white bread crust. On top of that, you have a little bit of the fresh white bread crust. On top of that, you get a nice kind of quite dense but still quite fluffy and airy white bready layer. Little bit of Jacob's cream cracker in there, as we've said. And then above that, the malt base in this one's actually quite straightforward, to be honest with you, but it's still quite elegantly done, can we say. Yeah, so above that kind of dense but still kind of airy white bready layer, you've got this, you start to get the oaty character out of the beer. So as you go down the middle line of your tongue, you can feel the kind of creamy side of the oats. It's got that creamy, that lovely kind of creamy character. And as you move out toward the edges of the palate, you get the kind of slightly drier and almost slightly sweeter side of the oats as well, which is really interesting. Yeah, that's lovely. But then you'll find on top of that kind of smoother, creamy side of the oats, you've got a wee touch of this. You can feel, you have this little circle in the middle of your palate, and you can feel it's a little bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. I'm pretty convinced this beer has a bit of, golden promise in it. There's just something setting off my contextual memory with this beer, that there's a bit of golden promise in this one. So yeah, that's really nice. As I say, that circle in the middle of your palate, you can feel, if you go to the dead centre of your palate, you'll get a little bit of a kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy thing out of this one. But then, yeah, as you move further out from that, there's a little bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of character to it. So yeah, I do really like how that goes together. Yeah, Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotch, a little bit of a McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. And yeah, it goes together very, very well. Yeah, I like that. I really do like how that goes together in this beer. It's quite as I say, it strikes me as quite a simple malt base, but it just works really well. And this is the thing, you can always count on Beerbliotek. If you want a solid example of a beer style, Beerbliotek, you can't go wrong with these guys. Their New Englands are great, their West Coasters are always good, the black IPAs are solid, the Imperial Stouts, the barley wines, yeah. We've had some really, really solid beers from these guys over the years. And as I say, this one, to me, it strikes me as they've maybe gone into this with a mentality of keep it simple but do it well. And that, I think, summarises what this beer is all about. I think we've said everything we really need to about the middle third of the palate with this beer at this point. So let's go to the back third of the palate and see what we have. So the border region between middle third and back third of your palate, again, you get a little bit of that bready build up in this one. So you can feel that there. The base of the back third of your palate, yeah, you get a little bit more kind of graininess and breadiness out of this one. Then, pardon me, above that, you start to get the, above that, you start to get a bit more, you get a bit more of the brown bready layer, and you can feel that layer is a little bit taller on the back third of the palate, but it's more airy and kind of lighter, if that makes sense, but just taller. So yeah, the slightly more grainy, bread crust, the slightly taller layer of brown bread, then you get the nice white bready layer out of this one. So you can feel that there. And again, it feels a little bit more dense, but it's still taller and has a bit of presence. Above all of that though, you get a wee bit of a kind of drier yeasty. You do get a little bit of a drier yeasty kind of thing out of this one, which I do like. So you can feel there's a little bit of a wood, it's got a little bit of this kind of airy, farmhousey, slightly woody and crackery bready note coming out of it. So yeah, I do like how all of that goes together. So it gets a thumbs up for me. The only other thing we would say is that the flavour on the back third of the palate is definitely taller. Then as you come further forward, it just condenses down and squashes together that wee bit more. But malty, yeasty side of this beer is actually very, very well done. So if I was advising Beerbliotek, I would say stick with the kind of principles that you've put into this beer for your New Englands going forward. That's very nice. Yeah. So, in terms of the hoppy side of things, then, let's go to the green component first. Back corners of the palate, there's definitely a wee touch of earthiness to this beer. Then, as you move further forward from that, you've got a little bit of a more. You do get a little bit of a herbal character, and as you push toward the kind of front corners of the palate, you get a little bit of a floral note. You do get a little bit of a more floral note out of it. You can kind of tell with this beer it's relying mainly on late addition and dry hopping. It's not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness. But yeah, round the front curve of the palate, you've got a wee bit of a lighter, more grassy type thing in there. You do get a little bit of zestiness. As I always say in these videos, remember there's 3 different types of hoppings. Early addition hopping, first hour of your wort boil, that gives you mainly bitterness. Late addition hopping, usually the last half hour of the wort boil, little bit of bitterness, but also a little bit of quite a bit of flavour and aroma. Then dry hopping after the wort boil, that's all flavour and aroma. New England IPAs tend to rely on the latter two, maybe a little touch of early addition hopping. West Coast IPAs use all 3, that's why they're bitter in comparison. But yeah, this one for me, you can just tell it's late addition and late addition and dry hopping that's been used in this beer. So, yeah, you do get a little bit of that out of this one. It's got the green component is very, very nice. Just you get more floral character out of this one actually. The further you go into the aftertaste, the earthiness lays there. Then you've just got a wee bit of the grassy, zesty note to it as well. So I do like how that I do really like how that goes together in this one. So it gets a thumbs up from me. Yeah. So in terms of the fruity side of this beer, then we can go to the front third of your palate. You can feel the border region between front third and middle third of your palate. Again, you get a little bit of that bready build up there. It's quite a white bready note that you get out of that. The base of the front third of your palate, you get a little touch of the bread crust, but a little bit of a smooth white bready note. Then above that, you get the nice oily white bready character. You do get a nice little bit of that kind of oily fruity note out of this one, the juicy fruity esters. And yeah, it's quite interesting, this one. I was trying to figure out when I've been drinking it what hops could have been used in this one. So yeah, the fruity side of the beer at the back of the front third of your palate, with this one, it's quite nice. You do get a little hint of that kind of more pungent grapefruit. There is a little bit of that, although I'd be tempted to say it's more of a passion fruit, to be honest with you. So you do get a little bit of that pungent grapefruity, passion fruity sort of thing. But then yeah, quite quickly as you move forward from that, it becomes like a softer mango and then apricot. As you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, it's got a sort of dry apricot-y papaya type thing to it. I do wonder if there's a wee bit of Idaho 7 in this. I really do. But yet, back of the front third of your palate, stronger passion fruit. Then as you come further forward, a more mellow mango. Then as you reach the middle of the front third of your palate, it's like, yeah, a bit of papaya, a little bit of apricot, and maybe a wee touch of pineapple as well. And as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, it's quite it is quite interesting. So yeah, in the front half of the front third of your palate, I do definitely get more of a kind of juicy orange thing. It's the thing that's been conscious in my mind, and you have to be careful when you're doing reviews that you don't get set off by tasting notes and stuff like that. But they are saying on the can here, tropical fruits and tangerine. It definitely does have a wee bit of an orangey, oily character to it. Maybe a bit of mosaic in this one. Something telling me that there's the wee bit of earthiness in the beer, and that tells me that it could be mosaic. This one, I don't think it's Sabro Mandarina Bavaria could be another option with this one, because there is something about this beer that strikes me as being a bit noble. So I think Mandarina Bavaria, or a little bit of Mosaic in this one. It's not quite oily and zesty enough to be Amarillo, I would say. You don't have the coconut elements, I think, to be Sabro either. But yeah, when you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, there is a little bit of an orangey note to it. It's almost quite fresh and zesty. It's almost a little touch minty, to be honest with you. But in the front half of that front third of your palate, there's definitely a wee bit of lime there as well. You've got this lime and kind of minty note as you reach the kind of front tip of the tongue, but definitely some orangey, tangerine notes, as they are saying, in behind that. But lots of tropical fruit, lots of kind of soft notes in there. So yeah, passion fruit, mango, apricot and papaya underneath, a bit of pineapple, some orange, some lime, and then just this kind of minty freshness to the beer. I'd be very curious to know what the hop profile was for this one, because I think they've done it really nicely. Yeah, as I say, this beer for me, it's quite difficult to get blown away by New England IPAs, but this is one of these ones that just strikes me as being quite simply done, or quite simple in its recipe, but it's just been well brewed. That's kind of what I think about this one, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this again. I think Beerbliotek have done a really nice job of this. I know that these guys have got a solid history when it comes to the New England hazies, so it gets a thumbs up from me. This is definitely worth trying. This is definitely worth trying. Bit of a shame if this is only a one-off brew, because I think this is potentially one of my favourite New Englands that I've had from them, actually. So yeah, take that statement as you wish. But I think we've described the flavour enough for this review, so we'll round off with the mouthfeel. For me, this beer, it's right in the middle of the spectrum. It's mid-bodied, the carbonation is smooth, it's got a good little bit of wetness to it. It's not overly creamy. I would say this beer is more of a wet New England IPA. IBU wise, I think it's a standard sort of 30 IBU. It does give you a little bit more bitterness the further into the aftertaste you go. But like I say, good little bit of bready smoothness to this one. I think it goes, yeah, you've got a nice little bit of bready and grainy character to it. There's a little bit of sweetness in the malt base, but not overly much. It's definitely a kind of oat and barley malt leaning New England IPA. This one, I think it leans a bit more towards the barley malt, to be honest with you. But the fruity notes, lovely tropical notes in there, and a bit of a kind of zesty, citrusy side to it later on. But as I say, a solidly done New England hazy IPA, this one, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. But this is kind of what we've come to expect from Beerbliotek. They're always producing some very interesting and very solid beers. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This was the past and the present and the future New England IPA at 7% ABV, Beerbliotek's recipe number 333. Try this one. I was really impressed with this. I think this was nice, and it's just good and drinkable. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews, and until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Beerbliotek as well, and we will return to these guys at some point in the near future. Hopefully for something a wee bit more malty and bigger in alcohol next time. It's been a while since we've had something like that from Beerbliotek. But check out my social media, check out theirs, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.